It's 6 a.m. in Valencia right now. No, not the title of Drake's latest song, just the current situation that is ongoing. Can someone go into the past and tell me when I decided to book a train at 6 a.m. to Barcelona? But I'm a prick.
Like or not, we are off and running. There's a little croissant to get us going. We're on the train, beautiful little countryside views of Spain. And just like that, with the click of the fingers, we're here.
Here in Barcelona, about to enter the tournament, the €888 main event. Let's get it. It's a big field tournament. There are plenty of runners all fielding that almost 1k buy-in and all aiming to get their hands on this trophy. Getting into the first hand of the day, we actually had some passport issues, so we started off very late. So we're only about 50 blinds deep. We'd lost 10k of our stack when this hand happens. It gets limped through to us and we wake up with ace king offsuit. We see a perfect chance to make it 6,000. In a shock turn of events, the big blind ends up calling after we make our raise from the small blind. It folds back round to the cutoff, who is a very splashy player, and he decides to also make the call. We're heading off to a flop, praying to see it king high, and it does come king high. King 7-6, rainbow. We c-bet for 4k, and surprisingly both players call. We're heading off to a turn card, which comes the Queen of Spades. Now this is a slight scare card, as we are well aware that the person calling the big blind could have King Queen of Spades. However, they could have a variety of hands, so we have to think about the best way we're going to extract value, and we decide that the check jam is going to be the best option. We check, the big blind ends up betting out for 15k. The cutoff calls, we're not too worried about that, he's a very splashy player. And we decide there's only one move we can make. We are all in for our remaining 30,000 chips and just hoping that none of the other two players have a better hand. Both players end up making the call relatively quickly, definitely cause for concern. Hoping to see an ace on the river, it doesn't come. There is a 5. Please go check. One time, just have king jack, the other person be on a misdraw. That's all we can hope for at this point. But after not too long of a wait, unfortunately, the big blind's all in and the cutoff snap calls him. We cannot imagine we have the best hand. The big blind ends up turning over king queen, as we suspected, for the 2 pair. And the cutoff ends up showing 4-3 for the winning hand. You're playing so well, you deserve it. But that's the end of our bullet 1, just like that. Nothing more to report. And we've got to go home and regroup. On the way to play the €888 main event. Spoiler alert, I actually did play one yesterday. We won't talk about what happened there. We ended up having to late reg, came in with like 50 blinds, ace king, went out really, didn't I? Says all you need to know. But today, we're coming back again. We've got some dangerous intentions. Here we go. We've seen that the first bullet has not gone the best, but we have another chance. So we head back down to Casino Barcelona. We filled our entry with some pretty sensational Spanish, and here we go. We've got a starting stack once again. Forget yesterday ever happened. Cards are in the air, they're being shuffled up, they're being dealt. Let's play some poker. This time we have a much better start to the day, and we grind up to 72k before we reach the first real interesting hand of the day. A very tight middle position player from the cutoff opens, and we are dealt 4-3 of diamonds on the button. Now normally I would probably lean towards a call, but we are very deep and this player is very tight, meaning that they're going to way overfold their hands pre, and we are going to get to really put some pressure on certain runouts. So we decide to make a 3-bet, the cutoff player makes the call. We go off to a flop of king 3 deuce. Now making a pair is never bad news, and we decide this board is going to smash our range. We're going to want to c-bet and see how the cutoff player responds. I was watching his reaction to the c-bet very carefully, because if he had a very comfortable decision, then I was looking to slow down and check on the turn. However, if it was a rather laboured call, took him a few seconds, clearly looked uncomfortable, then I would look to overbet on the turn to put more pressure on. He makes the call pretty easily, and it appears to me like he's going to have a lot of king X in his range. So now we're heading off to a turn, pretty comfortable that we are going to slow down and check. That is until our plans change when the 3 of hearts arrives, giving us trips and bringing in a double flush draw board. Now we have a very clear bet and we size up to 8,000 on the turn. Once again, our opposition quickly calls. So now we are praying for a brick river, and it arrives. The 6 of spades, perfect card, and now I've got to think about what I want to do. With both flush draws missing, I think I want to go for max value. So I size for an overbet of 35,000, and it does not take the cutoff player too long before he flicks in a call. I snap show my trips, he folds, showing a king face up. What? I never knew that. And we ship a huge pot our way, getting bullet 2 off to a much better start.
We're on our first break and we are absolutely cooking here in the 888 main event. We have an 181k starting stack, not starting stack, 181k stack from a starting stack of 50k. So we are nearly at 4x. We've run like a god. We 3-bet 4-3 suited, ended up making trips and stacking top pair. And yeah, it's not the worst place to have a little break, right on the beach here at Casino Barcelona. And we're just gonna go back in, hopefully continue the luck. I don't think I've lost a hand yet, to be honest. In funnier news, the first ever actual being recognised moment happened. Someone on my table asked me if I was Lecomsi, which I indeed am. So one of the 4 people that follow me, we must have encountered out in the wild, which is pretty cool. So if that's you, shout out to you. I hope you see this vlog, and hopefully it ends with me flipping winning the Barcelona main. That's the plan. Let's get back in there. Vamos! Now we wake up with the 7s in the small blind. The barn opens and we decide to just flat. Then the big blind moves all in. I check how much his stack is, I ask for a count, he's got 20k, which is good for 18 blinds, and after the button folds, I have no choice, I call, and we are heading to a run out. And just like that, 7 in the window, he is almost dead, we go to the turn card, he hits his ace, you got there Phil. It is of course completely irrelevant. He is drawing dead and we ship a big pot to go up to 267k, we are absolutely flying now. And look at that chip stack, it is a joy to behold. Now we're at the dinner break, and we have a stack of 245k, I believe it's around that, which is pretty ideal, nearly a 5x starting stack. I don't know if that is actually how many chips I have, but I've got a lot. And we will just keep on keeping on. It's pretty amazing that for dinner break you can just come straight out onto the beach. I don't know what I'm going to scran, but we played some fun hands. I was a little bit card dead for a bit actually, but still managed to pick up some nice pots. And we have a lovely chance of making a bag for day 2. Still plenty of play tonight. We're only about halfway through, I think, but we'll keep grinding. Let's go. Now, in one of the last real hands of note of the day, on one of the last levels of the day, we wake up with the Queen 9 of diamonds in the big blind. The button, who is a seemingly quite obnoxious American man, decides to raise it up to 4k. I've got a lovely little hand to defend, so of course, I decide to make the call with my Queen 9 of diamonds and we head off to a flop. The flop is the King 10-9 rainbow. We flop third pair and a gutter, not the worst flop, definitely not the best. So when we check, we are happy to see him check it right on back. We are off to a turn card, and the turn card is the King of Spades, a repeat king. We are of course very happy to check again, and once we have checked, this time we do not see the check back, we see a bet, and a bet of 2.5k. In my mind, this is turning his hand pretty face up, and he is telling me he has a 10. So instead of just calling, I decide we are going to try and push him off this pot with our equity. So we carve out a big raise of 10,000 chips, and after thinking for a little while, he decides to make the call. We are heading to a river, hoping to see another 9, a queen, or a jack. However, we do not see such a thing. The river is the 3 of hearts, and I did not come this far to slow down. I reach for chips and carve out a huge bet of 50,000. However, sometimes poker is about picking your customers, and this time I picked the wrong one because having played with him later, he does not like folding, and that is not what he does on this occasion. He slides in a call with his 10. We knew what we had, but we just could not make him fold, not even for 2x pot. In the square of the pigeon right now. This is how they're going to be flocking after my chips tomorrow. But yeah, we have qualified for day 2. We have bagged 220k to end day 1, which is pretty ideal. Didn't have the best last level, pretty card dead. Didn't really have opportunities to do much, but I'll come back with about 70 blinds for day 2. We are not yet in the money, but hopefully after 3 or 4 levels, we will be. And let's try and spin it up. But until then, I've got a day in Barcelona, NPC and about. Yeah, what a dream, what a dream. So now we get a chance to do some tourism. Yay, look how blue that water is. Apparently some people are a very big fan of this building. Thought it was alright. And then, a bloke named Gaudi did this. Pretty cool. Anyway, let's play some poker, shall we? And we are back. Here are our chips, and let's get back into the action. Now, after a few hours of day 2 grinding, not a lot has changed in this day 2. Our stack is down a little bit to 180k, but we are still very much in the mixer, and we are only 27 away from the money. 60 players getting paid, and there are 87 players left when we wake up with the queen and the queen at blinds 2.5k, 5k. We raise it up under the gun, the button player calls us, and then the big blind, who is a very tight OMC, if you're familiar with the term, decides to go all in for 22 blinds. Whilst I know that this is not going to be light by any means, of course, we got the queens. What are we going to do? So we follow suit, we jam it all in the middle, and let's go to a run out. The big blind flips over ace king for a flip, the classic race. If we hold this hand, we will have a very good chance of reaching the €2,350 min cash, which will go quite the way to saving my week. The flop is 966, about as safe as it comes. It's a rainbow board, no flush draws, no nothing. We are heading off to a turn, which is the 4 of clubs. Another safe turn. We are now 1 card away from having nearly 60 big blinds in this main event. On the river, we just have to fade either an ace or a king, and we will have heaps and be in with a huge chance of getting in the money and playing for that €75,000 first prize. And the river is the 10 of diamonds. It's a safe river. We double up. We have nearly 60 big blinds. And surely now we can cruise into the money and get that min cash locked up. However, before we start splashing our hypothetical min cash at the Barcelona mega store, we arrive at a spot that experts are describing as muy complicado. Alexandre, apparently my cousin, started the hand with a very good stack. It was around 300k. This is true. I decided to open ace 4 of diamonds on the button, very standard of course. A player that covers me decided to just make the call from the big blind, and we're heading off to a flop. The flop arrives ace queen 8, obviously pretty ideal for me. When he has a big stack and is able to pressure me, I imagine that anything that is beating me on this board would have 3-bet pre-flop. So with that being said, we are very comfortable to c-bet our hand, and we do just that. And after thinking for a little while, he makes the call. The turn is the 9 of spades. This is a slightly dicey card in the sense that Jack 10 has just made a straight. If he decides to call 9-8 on the flop, that's just made 2 pair, queen 9, etc. So although not a complete brick, I still think he's going to have so much pair plus draw, or just 1 pair holdings that I can get value from. So I decide to bet again on the turn for about 35,000, which once more, my opponent decides to pay. At this point, I am strongly intending to check back almost all rivers, unless potentially I hit another ace, or unless I hit a 4 on the river. And that is precisely what happens. The 4 of spades arrives on the river. This completes the backdoor flush draw, but also gives me 2 pair, so we have a very interesting decision. I think about whether I want to bet or check, and I think I definitely have to go for value in this spot, so I throw out a value bet of 75k, about 3/4 of the pot. The covering stack, one of the chip leaders, thinks for a long time. He's eyeing me up, he's eyeing my stack up before he announces all in. This is the absolute last thing I wanted to hear. I only have 2 time bank chips. I immediately throw them to the dealer because I know I'm going to need to take the maximum time to try and work out this spot. I almost snap fold because I think people are very unlikely to find bluffs here. But then, the more I start thinking about it, the more I'm thinking about how many times he's going to arrive to the river with a pair plus spade hand. I'd just seen him being aggressive in a previous hand and going for a 4-bet bluff. And I felt that this player may have been capable of putting pressure on me as we were only 10 from the money at this point. With 5 seconds to go on my time bank, I decide to make the call. And he turns over the king 7 of spades for the backdoor flush, and in heartbreaking fashion, I am out 10 from the money in the main event.
I just went out. I just made a stupid hero call for, I had like a 2 pair on the river, I value bet, where there was a flush on board, a backdoor flush that got there on the river, and then he jammed for like an extra 30 bigs. And like I just didn't have my time bank called off. I'm absolutely gutted, to be honest. I'm pretty annoyed at myself for ending up calling it off. I thought he was capable of bluffing. And look, you never know in poker. Maybe he is going to bluff that spot, and maybe like my call ends up being fine. I'm unblocking bluffs, but I think population is just never ever going to bluff that spot, and I just gave away a potential chance at a 2.4k min cash, 10 from the money. So GG. Sad end to the trip, but it was good fun.
On my way back from the tournament, I actually ended up seeing this really weird sign. For those of you that don't speak Catalan, it says, subscribe to Lecomsi or you will bubble every tournament like this for your next 50 tournaments.